Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well, and thank you for tuning into Moose Motion. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed the content, comment below what you think, share with friends, and subscribe if you're new. Anyway, let's dive right into the set building process. During this video, we'll be setting the stage for the upcoming dinosaur fight, which I promised quite a while ago, I must admit. Although these dinosaurs are quite a handful to deal with, so I needed an appropriate stage to kind of set them up on in order to make this all possible. So, giving my anti-gravity table here, where the sky is essentially facing upward, should be a good enough opportunity to hopefully do some more animations with these giant dolls of mine. For those of you who are new to the channel or unaware, Sue is the T-Rex, which is named after obviously a famous T-Rex that was discovered many years ago, which I'm a big fan of. Anyway, apart from that nonsense, my clay version of Sue is about 4 pounds, so it's definitely not an easy one to animate with. It's a lot to handle. The Spinosaurus is slightly lighter. It is about 3 pounds, but is about the same size. I'll admit I was a little smarter with the skeleton design on that one. Most of the rib cage is made out of tinfoil, which is something I probably should have done with the T-Rex, but it was kind of a new thing. I was experimenting with these dolls, and it turned to be quite more of a project than I thought it would be. So during this video, we're going to keep the set kind of to a minimum, mainly because it is kind of a handful dealing with these dinosaurs on their own. So just to make my life a little bit easier, we're not going to have too much of a set that's too complicated or anything like that, just so I don't have to worry about trying to keep the set together while the dinosaurs are going at it, because that's going to be a handful as is. And the main reason I'm using the anti-gravity table is mainly that way I don't have to worry about fighting with them to stay vertically upright. I'll just use some clever camera angles to give it the appearance that they are actually standing, when in reality they're actually laying down. In the next little bit here, I'll also show you how to make some foot anchor points, which is basically a stud running through the bottom of their foot, attached with a nut as well, so that way I can remove the stud if necessary for certain angles. That way you don't see how they're actually being held down. I'm just going to finish setting up the water here quickly, and then we'll move back to the little art office, where you'll get to see the foot stud basically be applied to the T-Rex as well as the Spinosaurus. Now it is time to go over how we are going to apply the little foot anchors, which is essentially just a little stud, washer, and a couple nuts, essentially. Nothing too intricate, but less is often more, I'd say. So what we're going to want to do at the beginning is basically glue one of the nuts to the bottom of the dinosaur's foot, so that way it gives the stud a screw-on point, so that way we can easily attach it and remove it if necessary. Now, obviously, the biggest trick here will be making sure that your nut is not visible to the eye while the dinosaur is standing, because, well, that's a dead giveaway as to how it all is working. And, well, this is kind of like magic in a way. We want to kind of hide how we're actually doing things, even though I'm making a how-to video on how it's actually done. But that's for the lucky people who are inspired by this and perhaps want to try and do some stop motion stuff on their own, and this is a good way to make sure that your characters have a lot more stability. And most of the professional studios generally do have these types of anchor points on their dolls. I'm luckily and can kind of get away with it with most of my smaller ones, I'll admit, but these are just too big and too much of a handful that I want every little bit of help that I can get, which includes actually bolting them to the table. So now that the plasticine has been removed from the foot, we're going to obviously glue the nut to the foot at this point. But, well, I admit one thing I probably should have used instead of super glue, which would have been slightly better, is probably JB Weld. Later on, I'll probably do some more surgery, chop it all apart again, and just add a small little layer of that just for some added support, so that way I'm never worried about the nut coming undone from the foot. Anyway, from now we're going to just do a little bit of a repair job, because I'll admit the Spinosaurus has had a broken toe for some time now, and it's kind of starting to bother me, and seeing how he's all apart seemed like it's a pretty good time to fix it, so why not? And whilst the glue is drying, we may as well give my dinosaur a quick pedicure, why not? His nails are looking a little rough there, and you can kind of see through that it's obviously not black all the way. Now for the magical part where we're obviously going to conceal our work, unfortunately, because, well, that's kind of the whole point, is making sure that it's not visible, because otherwise people will know that it's not standing on its own, and it kind of takes away from the whole illusion and experience at that point. So you have to be very careful and very smart on how you do some of these things, obviously. So obviously we're going to be less is more and just put a nice new layer of plasticine on the bottom of the foot, which is nice and level with the actual nut, so that way the only part that it'll be sticking through is the actual stud, which is, well, the part you want sticking through so you can bolt it to the table, because that's the whole point of this after all. And now the moment of truth, which is perfect. You can't see anything, which is, I guess, the whole point of this exercise. Now it is Sue's turn. We'll make this one a little bit quicker so we can get to the beauty shots a little bit faster. And, well, obviously it's going to be a very similar process. Now, Sue's skeleton is slightly different than the Spinosaurus's. Hers is pretty much all... It's an odd combination of Lego and actual oven-baked clay. The feet, for the most part, are oven-based clay, so it does make it a little bit more difficult to actually glue these things onto the base of her foot, unfortunately, which is why earlier on I recommended JB Weld, because I had some issues with her later on during the day trying to attach her to the stage. It didn't help that she's a little bit heavier than the other one, I'll admit. So yeah, I think JB Weld is going to be definitely applied to her foot later on, because she's just too damn heavy, which is kind of unfortunate because she's really cool given how big she is, but it's become somewhat of a temperamental thing and become like a lot harder to work with than I want, but she's still cool. We'll stick with it. Now, I'll admit, yes, this is definitely not the same color she is, but unfortunately, I have been having some issues with keeping my plasticine stock slightly up above water because of this whole pandemic thing. Unfortunately, a lot of stores don't seem to think it's very vital, so I'm definitely going to have to start ordering things on Amazon, even though this is kind of an odd color and I still haven't seen it around since then, unfortunately. So I'll have to keep my eyes peeled, but again, this is the bottom of her foot, so no one's going to see it. And quick little shout out to Denton Shook for finding Milton the Moose in my last episode. So be sure to keep your eyes peeled. If you haven't spotted him, I guess you better go back so you can find that moose and get a shout out to my next how-to video or little podcast. Anyway, here's your beauty shots. Be sure to like, comment, share with your friends, and subscribe if you're new. If you haven't already, that would be awesome, and your support is highly appreciated. Anyway, that's enough from me. Until next time, take it easy.